Hello, everyone, and it's glad to be here. I'm glad to be here today on this leadership agenda, the summit, and I'm here to talk on a very interesting topic. And I must say that when I was called upon to talk about this topic, I was posed a trick question, but I gave my unbiased views on the subject matter. And when I did that, Dr. Brian set me up to say, okay, so why don't you speak to your unbiased views about your unbiased views to a larger audience, okay? And I'm here to talk about women taking the position of leadership, okay, in a complicated world. And I told him frank positions of what I feel about leadership today and how women can take a better position in leadership by addressing some of the issues that we have currently. So I'm just going to take this very short keynote address, and I will speak my mind, okay, and I will also speak to my experiences. And I believe that the discussions thereafter would also be an opportunity for me to learn and unlearn some of the things that I've known. So with that, I would like to just start and introduce myself. My name is Anita Amorighoye, as seen on the screen, and I am the founder of AZA Center for Entrepreneurship. We focus on building SMEs. We are an enterprise development institute, and we focus on supporting SME growth. And we do that by introducing new or the emerging concepts to them and seeing how they can imbibe those concepts into their businesses on a day-to-day basis. We're talking about innovation, agility, adoption of technology, and reorienting yourself from a product or a service-based offering to a solution-based offering, okay? And also leveraging the existing technologies we have to offer your products or your services or your offering, as well as scaling on it. So this is what I do, and but I'm going to, enough about me, and I'm going to talk about the subject topic for today. So I will just share my screen, and then we can get rolling on that. Okay, so I'm here to talk about a very interesting course that's talking about re-examining how women can lead change in a complicated world. Well, you must agree with me that right now there's so much that is happening that you just when you're about to get abreast of one of them, another thing is happening. Because the world is now a global space and technology is enabling us to understand and know what is happening all across the world, you cannot but deny the fact that you will hear about what is happening. And sometimes it gets a bit scary. Sometimes it gets a bit uncertain. Sometimes it also gets a bit exciting, okay, because it also throws up opportunities for you to leverage. But leadership in all this is getting a bit more different from what we anticipated. For such a long time, I've understood leadership to be influencing, leadership to assume a position, yes, of servanthood, but being the chief servant to, drive the rest of the team to follow. I've understood leadership to be a position of strength, a position of certainty, a position of knowing what to do when no one else knows what to do. And all that has been changed with recent events around us that have happened. So leadership on its own is being redefined. And I want to talk about something that is more or less a dreaded word for most leaders. And these are the dreaded words. I don't know. It's the most difficult thing for any leader, to admit openly, I don't know. Why? simply because leaders are supposed to know or have access to those that know. In the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of so much that is happening in an emerging world, how do I get um, access to some level of certainty? I go to my leaders. I go to people that should have information or should have access to know what to do. And when you come to a leader, and especially in the last pandemic, and really we must admit that most of our leaders didn't know what to do. Believe me, as a leader, as a head of a team, as a head of an organization, or wherever you may be, if you are leading a group of people, one of the scariest positions for you to be in is in a position of I don't know. But I'm going to leverage on the wisdom of a very wise known man here. We can see his picture here. He's known as Socrates. And he's been touted to be like a harbinger or a resourcery for knowledge and of wisdom. And he said something about wisdom. He says that the only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. In other words, I don't know should no longer be a threat to leadership, but I don't know should be showing your humanity. It should be showing that, yes, there's an opportunity to know. And as much as we want our leaders to know, as much as we assume a position of leadership that has control over the situation, the truth about it is that I don't know is only human. But on the flip side, when we take the perspective from the point of leaders, admitting that I don't know means failure. I spoke to some leaders and I said, how easy is it for you to say, I don't know? And some of their reactions were like, it's hard for me to say I don't know. I'd rather just, coin up a situation or anything, because it means I am failing as a leader. I'm supposed to know how to lead these people. I'm supposed to know what to do. I'm supposed to know what to say. And there's an expectation of me occupying that seat to lead. And when I don't know, what happens is that I have failed them in that expectation. Another group talked about weakness, okay? That I've been known to be in a position of strength. I've been known to have some control over everything that is happening. And when I admit I don't know, it shows weakness. We've talked about loss of control. We've been reining on this team. We've been holding on to these people. We understand the strategy to use. We understand the resources, the tactics, and how to take advantage of the opportunities that we have, the markets that we have to penetrate. And then all of a sudden, we're in a position where we've lost control of everything, and it seems like we're just tiding away with the winds. What about mortality? We have the idea behind us that to some extent, leaders are almost immortal. They're the symbol of strength. Look at Socrates here. He's the symbol of strength. He's the symbol of authority. And it's almost as if we should wish that leaders do not die. But when they are confronted with a position of uncertainty, what it means is that it reminds them of their mortality, and they don't want to admit that. So it's difficult admitting such. Another thing again with subordination. So these people have been on the top of it all. They've been on the A of their game. They have been in control. And then all of a sudden there is the threat and the fear that somebody else that does know what they do not know can make them or put them in a subordinated position. So admitting I do not know in this for any leader is a no-no, okay? It's a position of weakness and a position, like I said, of subordination. But there's something that we must understand, that we are living in the times of uncertainty, gross uncertainty. Everything is changing. You sleep and you wake up and the things that you knew before, you don't know again. The children that you knew before, you don't know again. The life that we used to live, we don't know again. All through the COVID-19 and the pandemic period, everybody kept on wondering, what would life be like after this? Would we not be able to socialize again? Will we not be able to communicate again? Will we not be able to live and enjoy the things that we used to do? Now, while that is also a concern for the you and I's, the regular people, it's also a concern for leadership. How do I get my people to begin to live again? It is necessary that we talk about leadership and leadership in an uncertain world before we begin to talk about how women can play a very vital part in leadership in this changing time, and how we can leverage our internal strengths, okay, to capitalize and take advantage of this for our good. So one thing we've kept on talking about is that we are in a world of uncertainty. We are in a world where things are changing at a rapid position. Like I said, you sleep and you wake up, and even the kids that you knew before, you don't know them anymore. They've changed. So what is happening? Why are we in such a rapid move towards uncertainty? It's like we are on a roller coaster and we are not in control. Now, being in a roller coaster is scary. I imagine somebody that is supposed to be at the helm of leadership in that roller coaster, that it's not in their control. What is happening? Why are we seeing all these changes? The previous speakers have spoken about so many things that we're seeing: rapid advancements, changes in lifestyle, changes in the way we work, we live, we interact, changes in the way that we even see things, okay? And all these things are happening, but I'm going to just itemize some drivers that are causing these uncertainties, that are also bringing this shakeup in the way we lead. And some of them are the technological advancements. Prior to this time, you had to utilize your inner strength to work. But guess what? With the advancements of AI, with advancements in blockchain, the advancements in different technologies, we find out that the life we used to know is no longer the same. I was talking to a friend of mine just a few days ago, and I was talking to her and telling her about the days where when you go to the bank, here in Nigeria, they used to give you a little tag called a tally number. And that tag more or less tells you when it's your time for you to take money. You must go to your branch. It was almost impossible for you to draw money outside your bank branch. And look at today. And then of course banking ended once the doors closed. You couldn't access your money anymore. And what we tell you, if it's a Friday night, that means you're not going to have access to money. There's nobody that is going to lend you money until Monday. But what are we seeing? We're seeing technological advancements. We're seeing changes where you can have access to your funds when you want, how you want, anytime, any day. But with technological advancements also comes with a whole lot of uncertainty, because while people are looking at advancing it, people are also looking at taking advantage of it for the worse. And it brings a lot of uncertainties to say, how do I secure? How do I safeguard and protect what I'm doing? What is the next thing I'm going to do? If I adopt this technology right now, is it still going to be relevant in the next 5, 10, or even 1 year, 12 months? Because we see as an era of rapid transformation, and we need to understand that technologies that are existing today may become obsolete in the next 2 or 3 years. What are we also seeing that's driving uncertainty? We're seeing the rise of pandemics and natural disasters. Yes, we used to have natural disasters, and of course we didn't experience it, but then there has been history that has given credence to pandemics that have happened before. But what we are seeing happen is in a quick succession. We're seeing natural disasters. The world is changing. The world is trying to change itself. It's trying to remake itself, and it's happening. It's changing the way that we live in worlds. We see tsunamis, we see floods, we see drought. We see the change even in ecology. I talked about it. We see everything is changing, and it's bringing on uncertainty. So imagine if you are in an industry where your business is supposed to thrive on the world as is, And then all of a sudden, we are hearing, just like in the pandemic that we are in, and we just finished experiencing, some people are still experiencing the worst of it, while in some places we are gradually beginning to see life return somewhat to somewhat sense of normalcy. And what are we seeing? We're seeing changing habits. There was in the past, I didn't think twice about hugging people and shaking them and speaking in their face. And right now, even with a mask, I'm still thinking of how to social distance with a mask. Okay, so what are we seeing? We're seeing leaders in a position of, how can I harness the best of my team using a tool that I've never understood how to use before, which is remote working. How can I ensure that I can still deliver on the commitments I have to my stakeholders within the context and the frame of this pandemic? How long is it going to last? Is business going to be the same even after this? Can I, with my offering right now, can I leverage the opportunities that the pandemic is bringing, okay? Or is it something that I need to review and change my whole business model? And do I have the capabilities and the capacities internally or around me to enable this process to go through? So some of the drivers, I talked about ecological changes. How can I begin to change some of the habits that I have been known to do? I look at, anytime I click on the Google Chrome, anytime I click on Google Chrome, one of the things I see carbon free, okay? So I see people that are specifically trying to change the way they operate, the way they work, to align themselves with ecological changes. Now, as a leader, is that an easy feat? Do I have the competencies within me? What about the resources to even enable it? Even if I do have the knowledge base, can I access resources to make that change that that changes in the ecology are requiring of me to do? Now, the ones that we are looking at more and more happening in a very frequent succession is the agitation and rights movement. People are beginning to understand that they have a right, they have civil rights, and they are demanding access to that right. We're seeing upheavals, we're seeing changes, we're seeing people that are being more confrontational. We're seeing people that know their rights and are demanding their rights. As leaders right now, how do I manage an upstand or an upstage with when my people come in and they say, you know what, we want our rights and we want it right now. Do I have the negotiating capabilities? What can I do? And of course, there's also a spiritual arm. In the midst of all this, when there is so much uncertainty, people go to things, or people turn to the one that they believe can provide some enlightenment, some clarity, some way forward on how to get through this time. So we admit that we are living in uncertain times. And leaders, even though it's the most scary thing to say, I don't know, they just have to say, I don't know. But what do we do? Do we continue like that and say, well, it's okay, we're passing through this? No, leadership must continue. So we need to understand, how is leadership going to be in this world that we're living in right now? And I must say something, that the world is on a reset. Change is the only thing that is constant, but change is good to those that embrace it as good. And we need to look at it and say, how do we rethink leadership? Is it going to be the same way? The pandemics have taught us that things are changing. The civil rights movements and agitations, the technological advancements, the pandemics, the natural disasters, they're all speaking to us and telling us that leadership, things are changing, the world is resetting itself. So even as leaders, we must understand that we need to reset ourselves. The way we used to lead is not the way we can lead for a tomorrow. We need to change a whole lot of strategies. We need to change the competencies. We need to change even what our understanding of leadership really is about. Okay, what does leadership mean to you? Is it still influencing? Is it still a good communicator? Is it still someone that has ability to harness and leverage resources for the good of all? what is leadership to you right now as a leader? Another thing we need to also look at is we need to understand, do I have the skills to lead the tomorrow's people? Do I have the competencies? Do I have the abilities? Do I even have the knowledge, or can I have the resourcery of that knowledge to access to lead the people tomorrow? But the most pertinent question I need to ask that is redefining or resetting leadership is we need to understand, who are we leading? I took a cursory look at to understand what the world's demographics are, so that we can understand who exactly are we leading. Because when we understand them and we understand what characterizes them and what makes them tick, then we can understand how to lead them and know whether the skills, the proficiencies, the abilities that we had in the past are sufficient to lead these people. Otherwise, we will just be leadership without followership, and that is not a good place to be. So I looked at the demographics and I took a drawing from Statista, and I found out that we have 100% represents the global population of over 7 billion people. And out of this, we have 26% of them that are under 15. And these are people that really don't fully understand what leadership is, except the leadership at home. We can characterize them like that. And people above 65 years and above account for about 9% of the world's demographics. So maybe we will talk about these people that have, lived life, are living life, and are not active, okay, in demanding for good leadership, or in the scheme of things. They are taking it easy because, they are enjoying the days that they have, and they want to make the best of it before, they depart. So what does that mean? It means that we have 65% of the people within the age of 15 and 64. Now, this is the active age set, the demographic of people that are being led, 65%. And if we want to understand how we have to lead these people, we need to understand who comprises of these 65%. And I tell you something, a majority of this 65% are found in the millennials as well as the Gen Zs. I have a Gen Z at home, and sometimes I don't understand her anymore. I think that we are thinking in divergent ways, because what she's thinking of is not what I'm thinking of. The way I know how to address things is totally different. So for me to have an understanding as a leader in my home, I needed to go and understand what the peculiarities of this Gen Z and millennial group are, because that's the only way I can communicate and relate to her as a leader in that home. And what did I see? I see that this group of people are characterized by diversity. Okay, so their unity is in their diversity. They are different. They're not like you and I, but then they want you to also appreciate their differences, and they want you to respect that they're different. You cannot just categorize everyone and put them in one block. No, they're diverse, and you must respect that. Another thing I understood about the Gen Zs as the millennials is that they're digital natives. You can't take away their phone. They're the ones that are driving technology to continue to innovate itself, to meet with the demands of this. Now, as a leader, we need to understand that if I am leading this group, which accounts for 65% of the people that I lead, I must understand that these people are driven by digital technology, and I must find my space and my competencies in there for me to lead them. They are pragmatic, okay, and they understand finances. They've seen the world go through global financial crisis. They've seen their parents lose their savings, and they don't want to go to that. So they're even more financially savvy than you and I were at their age. These are the characteristics of these people that we are leading. They are very much in tune with politics. They want to influence the way they are led. They don't want to just be the stick and the bandwagon thing, that you can control them and lead them in any way. No. So you see them driving agitations, the Black Lives Matter. You see them driving agitations of even sexuality. You see them all over driving these agitations because they want to have a say in how they are being led in the scheme of things. You cannot just relegate them to the past again, be in the sense that they don't know. They do know, and they want to be actively involved in it. Another thing I noticed was their heightened sensitivity. Their heightened sensitivity, I try to understand it. Sorry about that. So I wanted to understand what is driving their heightened sensitivity. And I want to believe that part of what's driving the heightened sensitivity may be largely due to the fact that these children are, or this group of people, not children, are very, very, very sensitive because most of their interactions are done on the digital space, unlike in our days or in the older days where we had relationships driving all these things. So if I know that these people are not different from the way I've known life to be, then I must also be able to embrace new leadership skills. Okay? And what am I going to do? I need to redefine leadership, because when I redefine leadership, then I can now redefine the skills that I need to lead in the world today. We used to know leaders to be visionary, to have a vision and to carry everybody on towards that vision. But in the world of uncertainty and changes, we need to understand that being a visionary is good, but being able to adapt to changing situations and being agile about it is the skill for leadership that is required now. What about influencing? We used to understand that we can influence people towards a certain position or towards a certain goal. But we know that with these people, this new set of people that we're leading, that are emotionally sensitive, that listen to every word that you're speaking, we need to understand that we can no longer just drive them to a goal, but we need to speak to them emotionally through inspiration. We need to bring in emotions more than we need to bring in the focus or the target. Okay? What about persistence? We know we have leaders. These are qualities of a leader. You must be persistent. You keep on pushing. You keep on driving towards it until you reach your goal. But there is a senior brother, I call it, to persistence, and that is grit. And grit encompasses not just persistence and energy and strength, but it requires courage. It requires a staying power to continue to persist, be on that path and not move. It requires resilience to get up again even when you're down. It requires a conscientiousness and an endurance to pass through that situation. So grit, more or less, or persistence, I think, is a subset of grit. And this is what we need right now in a changing world. This is what we need to see in leaders. Prior to this time, we see our leaders as a resource for intelligence. They know what to do. They know how to do it. They know where to go and how to get there. But is intelligence enough? In the leadership qualities that we are seeing, the people that we're being led are being driven by emotional and social issues. So we must have a heightened sense of that social and emotional quotient. We cannot just leave it again with knowledge on what to do. We must be social. We must be able to relate to them. We must be able to inspire them into that new position. We cannot just leverage on intelligence anymore to lead. We must understand that you must be social, you must be able to relate to these people, and that you must be able to feel their pain with empathy. You must empathize, okay, and be in their shoes. What about focus? We always knew our leaders to be focused, to be target driven, to just hit the nail on the eye. But now, not anymore. We see leaders must be multitasking. You must be addressing issues, whether it's technological, whether it is human, whether it is civil rights. You must be multitasking and hands-on in all of them. And finally, I considered the next one, which is the body of knowledge, which we understood leadership to have a certain group around them that they can draw strength on, with the body of knowledge where they can draw knowledge from. But now the leadership of today requires the wisdom of the crowd. You cannot get it in a certain closed door room of people anymore. You need to spread out. You need to get your information from multiple sources and from many people. That is your ability to be able to be humble enough to understand that your source of knowledge is not in just a few people, but it's in a large crowd, and your ability to harness the information or the knowledge from there is what is going to make you stand out as a leader. So what is the summary of it all? We've talked about influence, we've talked about grit, we've talked about social and emotional intelligence, we've talked about the wisdom of crowd. And I want to tell you all that all those characters, the skills and all that, the summary of it all is that it's found in women. Now I know that this may resonate very well with some and may not, but if we take a critical look at it, women are adaptable. They change this situations. A woman is able to change because in all her life, she has been changing. She's changed as a young lady into the woman that she is. She's changed in her body. She's changed in her status. She's changed in her responsibility from being a young single girl to a family. She's changed in motherhood. She's changed in expectations. She's changed as a wife. Women are subject to change. They've known change all their life. And then they exhibit the characters or the qualities of tomorrow's leaders. What about grit? Women are one of the most courageous people that you can find. They can tackle on any situation. Take an example, a woman whose loved one is in crisis. She's going to lay aside her own prejudices or her own fears right now in that moment just to save the situation. I wouldn't talk about multitasking because, I feel that some of the men, we hear that some people are complaining, oh, that remote working is not working. Well, I think that some of those people that are agitating for that are more or less the men, because women are great multitaskers. And I can go on and go on about the benefits of the women, but what I want to say is that women are great leaders, but women must understand something, that you cannot be a banana and warehouse a kiwi inside. You need to be who you are. So how can women continue to lead today? Number one is to draw on the strengths we have. And I've talked about the strengths for the leadership or leadership for tomorrow. You need to leverage those strengths and build on them. You need to look inside and draw strength from within. You need to be prepared. Nobody's going to hand you opportunity. You need to take hold and grab hold of them. Never forget that subtlety is strength. You're quiet and you're peaceful does not mean you're weak. It means your strength. It means you have strength in character. And it means that you can leverage that as an opportunity to stay ahead. And finally, I want to say something to all women out there, because you are leaders in your own rights, that yes, we want to save the world, but we must begin from ourselves. Save yourself first and save the world next. And with this, I just want to close and say that women are and they possess the qualities for tomorrow's leaders today. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Mbagu, and I will be hosting the panel discussion on women in leadership. Thank you so much, Anita, for your keynote. It was very powerful and insightful. So before we get into the panel, I'd like to introduce both of us panelists. One you've already met, Mrs. Anita Amorighoye. Anita is a seasoned banker with over 18 years experience spanning various areas of banking, such as commercial and retail banking, treasury, corporate banking, public sector, and enterprise risk management. During her career, she served as the team lead for the Gender Empowerment Unit Port Harcourt with Access Bank PLC. GEM is an initiative between Access Bank PLC and the International Finance Corporation set up for the empowerment of women-owned businesses in Nigeria. The programs allowed her to gain insight globally to the sensitivities and ways to support women-owned businesses through a platform of various fora held in Australia and East Africa. Until her co-founder Azir, she served in various capacities and projects at Skybank PLC to deliver banking expertise under distinct special purpose vehicles in partnership with River State Government to deliver various social impact schemes. Her last appointment in Skybank was as the group head overseeing commercial and retail banking activities in the River State. Mrs. Amorighoye is a member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers Nigeria, Chartered Banking Institute in the UK, and the Nigerian Institute of Management. She holds a certificate in entrepreneurship essentials from the Harvard Business School HBX program, an MBA Business Administration from the Bangor Business School, and a BSc in Mathematics and Computer Science. She also holds various other non-secular certificates. Our next panelist is Nena Okoro. Nena has over 25 years experience working with 5 financial institutions, including Citi and Standard Chartered Bank. At Stanbic IBTC, Nena is the chairwoman of the Blue Women Network and the head of the consumer sector client coverage in corporate and investment banking. Consumer sector comprises of consumer packaged goods, FMCGs, agri-businesses, and retail subsectors. In a previous role, she was the regional head of product management for Nigeria and West Africa, responsible for driving the business objectives for the region, including Nigeria, Ghana, DRC, Angola, and CDI. Nena is a thought leader and strong advocate in leading digital transformation and financial inclusion in an environmentally friendly manner. And Nena is also a published author with Westbrook Press in the USA, and she is a Sloan Fellow in the London Business School, where she holds a master's degree in leadership and strategy. As you can see, both of these women are more than qualified to provide key and valuable insights into the topic of women in leadership, and I'm excited to delve in. So just to touch upon the keynote that you provided, Anita, what are your views? There's a Harvard study that talks about how women are less likely to put themselves forward for leadership positions and promotions due to different issues in terms of being having the ability to promote themselves in comparison to men. So there is still an issue of having women in boards. So you said that we're equipped to lead in these unique times. And what are you seeing from your experience about how women can further step into those roles so that they have the opportunity to provide leadership?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to, yes, I did say that because we have innate skills. We have the skills that we were born with. We have the skills that we need to lead in the tomorrow's leaders today, okay? And it is true that women are naturally risk averse, but we must continue to say it and speak out there to tell women that these opportunities will not be handed to you because you're a woman. You need to pursue and you need to be prepared. But then again, we must also understand, like I said, is that leadership is changing just as the world is changing. And as the world continues to change, they're going to demand new skills from women. So women need to begin to function in those things that they know how. A banana cannot grow a kiwi inside, just like with the picture that I said. So we need women to begin to function in that position that they have strength in and not try to compete as a man. Be the woman you are and draw on the strength that you have. And believe me, take that step out and be prepared, and the world is at your feet.
Brilliant, thank you. Is Nena on as well? Can we get your view on this same topic, Nena? Okay. Sorry, but I'm not sure if Nena's on. So Anita, just to delve more into.
Hear me?
Yes, you are. Hello, Elena, can you hear me? Okay. All right, to delve into some other points that you mentioned in terms of there being a space, there's this current uncertainty, and there is a space for a new way of leading, which can, and in with uncertainty and diversity of thought, which is the collaboration piece, is where innovation is born. So I want you to talk more about how you see women being able to really step into this and what skills they possess that will really help us transition through these complicated times.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to talk about one of the very powerful strengths that women have that leaders are supposed to possess, and I'm going to talk about the gift of communication. Okay, the strength of communication, because we've misunderstood what communication really is a whole lot of times, because we just keep on giving out that information and we believe that it's been communicated. But you see, as little as a woman, from the day she knows that she takes in, she begins to speak to that fetus inside, and she begins to declare what the child is supposed to be. And that begins the inspiration aspect. We talked about influencing, okay, being a skill for leaders, but inspiring, which whips up emotions, is what is going to lead them through the tough times. So when we are passing through this time of uncertainty, we understand that we cannot just focus on the goal, but cannot focus on the what, but we must focus on the how. And that's why we talked about inspiring people into that space. Another thing, again, we need to know, women need to understand, is that we have been given an overdose of that social quotient and that emotional quotient. And that is what is changing the world from the place of knowledge. Knowledge is everywhere. The internet is ready to give you any kind of knowledge you want. But AI and robotics, they are able to give you that knowledge that you want. But what they can't give you is that social and that emotional quotient. So I'm just going to take on these two little points and speak to it and say, women, draw on your strengths to collaborate, draw on your strength of inspiration, and then emotional and social building. These two, just alone, are one of the few skills that you can leverage to enable that change or that leadership change that we require.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And Nana, do you have anything to contribute on that?
Yes, thanks. Anita has actually captured it quite nicely. Indeed, it changed, an alert world is a changed world. And like she rightly said, women have capacity, and these skills are already innate in us. So it's just to look within us, look inside of us, and draw from the strength that we already have been given by God. If you look at the women that we consider strong women in positions of leadership, you would see that they're just women who have decided to draw from their innate skills, from their gifts. I'm sure, the good book will tell you that, your gifts will make room for you. So once you draw from it, the rest of the world will make room for you. So that's really where I think, from a leadership perspective, women should start from. Just believe in yourself, draw from inside of you, and then just go, just explore. The world will respond to that energy that you have, because it's natural. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Nana, just to get your insight, what do you think the other key challenges women are facing in these complicated times that they would have to consider in order to really thrive and persevere through?
Okay. Indeed, the world has changed, and even though it looks like there are different skills required for different changes that we've seen, but it's really that the world has given power to the strengths that women have. It's really that the change has given, what I would say, authenticity to what we already have, to our innate abilities. So some of the challenges that we see today are actually, the first one I would say, mindset. So there needs to be a paradigm shift in the way we think as women. We need to stop limiting ourselves by the way we see ourselves. We need to just understand that we're not trying to replace men, but we're just trying to be us. We're just trying to be women who are able to, you know, drive change, move circumstances, and change the ability of people to believe in themselves simply by our nature to speak into people's lives, simply by our nature to offer ourselves to other people. The other challenge that I see is just that the other mindset shift within the society. Apart from the way we women see ourselves, it's also important that the society realizes that in everything we do, we come with our biology. You're not going to change that. Okay? It's in our nature to do certain things, to nurture. It's in our nature to produce. It's in our nature to want to take charge, to take care of things. But you find that sometimes when you want to take charge, it looks like she's aggressive. When you should be seen as assertive, you're looked at as being aggressive. When you're trying to help out in a situation, it looks like everybody else should sit down and leave it for you to handle. For people who aren't strong enough to handle that, you start to have an inferiority complex. So it's also in the way that the society sees us. And then there's also this other challenge of not understanding the benefit of celebrating your victories and yourself. You have to recognize the fact that you have ended and acknowledge it that you have ended and celebrate yourself for what it is. Okay, so I'm just adding these soft challenges because Anita has captured all the other hard stuff in her beautiful presentation. By the way, Anita, thanks for that. That was quite inspiring. So maybe the last thing I would like to maybe touch on is just the part of women not putting their hands up. You've got to put your hand up to be considered for a position or to be seen as someone who is interested in doing something. Sometimes we tend to want to just sit back and hope that we'll be appointed and hope that we'll be recognized and hope that somebody will see the good work that we're doing. It's safe and it's fine to put your hand up. We should learn to take that risk and not be so risk averse in such a VUCA world, a world that is changing. It's part of being alert. It's part of standing up for yourself. It's part of choosing to challenge.
Brilliant. I love what you said about we're not trying to replace men. We can be ourselves naturally. And I think that we, as women, have fought for so long. There's been the feminist movement to give us more rights and create more opportunities. And maybe some of us have thought that we had to become men to compete in a men's world. So became hardened and didn't call upon those attributes that you mentioned in your talk, Anita, in terms of our ability to nurture and our emotional intelligence. We felt like we had to be hard in order to be respected. So how, now that we have shifted, we've come a long way, there's still a bit of a way to go. What can we do to harness more of that, those innate, natural, authentic attributes that do have a space, especially now? Anita?
Okay, I would say, first of all, is begin to use the skills that you have inside of you, okay? Nana spoke about it. Don't be a man. You can't compete like a man. In politics, for example, we need to find a different model, okay, to compete that is not the same as what is known. But then that's what uncertainty brings about. It brings about change. So when we begin to look at different ways of harnessing the inner skills, and women then harnessing the different skills that we have, it's an opportunity for us to express what we have on the inside. We need to also look at women lifting up women. We do see a lot of that happening right now. We need to see more. Nobody's going to hand you that space. You need to take it, and you need to lift up your fellow woman. So you see a woman that, is not utilizing the strengths that she has, gather her, speak to her. You're not being a feminist. You're only telling her, be more of a woman. And when she's more of a woman, she begins to occupy that natural space of leadership. We're not usurping power from men. We're just being the women that God has created us to be. So I think more of practice, draw on that thing that you have, use every opportunity, you know, to build on it, and for a positive reason, and then lift up the next woman that you see that does not understand or does not realize that she also has that inner strength. And that's one way to continue to, you know, bring this cycle of change around, where women will continue to assume their new roles.
Amazing. So that just draws upon what you said about collaboration and expanding our networks further in order to benefit from that diversity of thought. But that includes, I guess, when you said that the old model of leadership is being the leader and having servants that follow you, the new version of leadership is creating leaders from the people that you are leading, because a team is more powerful, surely, when there's a number of leaders rather than just one person leading and waiting for instruction. So that's brilliant. I am keen to explore how you think men can support women in this journey of embracing their natural way of being. Is there anything that needs to shift on that side?
Is that my question?
Anyone? Yeah. So Anita, yeah, you can.
Well, there's some word that I've always known, that you're not handed over opportunity, you take opportunity. If we can't sit down and wait for men to hand us that opportunity, we need to demonstrate that we have the capacity. We need to demonstrate that we are prepared. What are men supposed to do? Men are supposed to recognize the strength when they see it, and they're supposed to be unbiased. So a woman that is well schooled, a woman that is well prepared, should not be judged by her gender or her sexuality, but should be judged by her competencies. So this is one way that men can enable, the empowerment of women to be greater leaders, by being unbiased in their judgment and not looking at their femininity. And sometimes you can even if you want to look at it, you look at the strengths of her being a woman, and then take your decisions from there.
Great, thank you. Nena, do you want to contribute anything on that? What can men do to support women?
Yes, there are two parts to it. You know what I said earlier on, about us bringing our biology to work. That simply means that there are two parts to us. There's the family, and then there's the work, the professional life. So the personal and the professional. So we can't discount, the family. So I would say in the family, the men in the family need to understand the need to support the woman. Once you've decided that, she's a career woman and you've accepted it, you have to provide the support. She needs an entire support system in order to be her best self. So whatever it is, it's not always about money. It could be just emotional support. It could be support at home, do some of the chores so she can focus on an assignment that she needs to deliver tomorrow, or prepare for a speaker event or a panelist she needs to, to do. And, by all means, we have usually women that are fierce about so many things. You also provide that encouragement, remind her that she can do it. She's made for this, go out there, show up, So that's one. And then on the professional side, there are three ways. It's simple. Mentorship, you be the mentor, or you can be a sponsor, or you can be a coach. So when you're a sponsor, it means that where she's not, you're speaking up for her. You're saying, yes, I'm aware of her work. This is what she has delivered. This is what she has achieved. This is what she's capable of doing. When you're a coach, you're the ones telling her this is how to do it, so that it comes out well, or your presentation, it becomes the best, or this is what is expected. This is how you manage stakeholders. You're coaching. When it's time for mentoring, you're helping her to look inwards to say, perhaps there are blind spots you should look at, or these are your strengths that you should pursue, or these are your weaknesses you shouldn't bother about or you should work on. So one of those three roles in a professional setting will be perfect. Some people are gifted and they can provide all three in one person. But by all means, you should have your own personal board of advisors. And if you need 2 to 3 people to make that up, that is fine. So men, please, this is where we need you to be a mentor, sponsor, or a coach in a professional setting. And then when we're in the family, by all means, provide all the support we need to be our best selves, when we go out to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship at work and support in the family. I want to delve more into the support in the family because now we have shifted into home working globally. It's definitely challenged everyone. So I know Anita, you spoke about it in your keynote in terms of the technological challenges and the fact that women are equipped to do this, to handle it well because we're built to multitask. But I want to focus on the expectations, not only as that women have on themselves, but that society has towards them, especially in certain cultures that have very distinct roles of what a woman role should be in the home. How are they going to be able to manage both the family expectations and the professional expectations while being in the family home?
Yes. So I still go back to some of the strengths that we talked about leaders for today having. And you spoke about your ability to multitask and how you can, but women have the strength to balance them all. I think women have the capacity to multiply 24 hours to become 48 and do everything in that. How do they do it? Women have the innate ability to organize. So I can be cooking, giving the child a bath, and doing the homework all at once, and at the same time speaking to my husband and encouraging him. What it really just means is, like I said, we do have the inner abilities, but maybe they may be dormant in some people. And until you have an opportunity to exercise it, you wouldn't know the strength that you have. Sometimes in a day, and I must say this, sometimes in a day, I'm like, God, have you given me, I need to check if there's another 1 or 2 hours thrown in there because of the things that I have to do and the things that I was able to achieve. But I find out that it was really that ability to multitask, the ability to engage, collaboration. We talked about it. So I'm not only doing it at the same time, but there's a way I can collaborate others to help me in this, that people partner with me. Okay, so once I get everybody on my team and I'm the cheerleader, cheering everybody, all of them, it more or less divides the work. So the work is not so much on me. So how would women continue? There's an expectation. You are a wife, you are a mother. You can't delegate that role. That is your role. And you should love the role, because the role is one of the most rewarding roles that you can think of. So why should I pass that on to somebody else when I can leverage everybody to be on my team and then work this thing through? So this is what I'm going to keep on talking about, collaborating and drawing on the resources that you have to achieve the expectations that are required of you.
So that builds onto what you said about saying, I don't know. I think maybe sometimes women have the tendency to take everything on and not say, I need help. So maybe that's a new question to add to the list. How can I get help from my tribe? I've got family members that I can call on. Maybe I ask my husband for something I wouldn't have normally asked him for in order to give me the capacity to deal with the lows. So thank you for that. And Nana, what are your views on?
In fact, I was smiling when she said that, because there's this data from UN, revealing that the whole pandemic could wipe out 25 years of increasing gender equality. Okay, and this is because women are doing significantly more domestic chores and family care, and this in turn can impact on job and education opportunities. So indeed, there's significant impact on what has happened, but also is an opportunity, for us women to start to use our support system, just like Anita said, we've got to be able to use our support system. You have to be able to outsource. And digitization has actually done very well in helping us. For instance, if you need to shop, it's e-commerce, you order everything. Trust the system. Just order everything and let it get delivered to you, okay? If you need to get the house clean, by all means, trust someone to do it in a way that it will be acceptable to you. so that you can focus on other things you have to do. Like she rightly said, there are roles you cannot outsource, okay? But for those ones that you can outsource, trust that somebody else can do it. Because sometimes the tendency to want to do everything yourself because you don't trust the output from of other people, that could also be a limitation for you, for us women. But it's important that we learn to use our support system. Your support system includes everyone, your domestic staff, your family, your friends, anyone who can actually deliver on a task for you. By all means, that's why you have a tribe. That's why you have a network effect. Don't hesitate to reach out to people because at some point your body will force you to do that. Because if you don't apply self-care, at some point you will break down and then you're still forced to do what you should have done in the first place. So why don't you remember to take care of yourself by using your support system, outsource, and then trust that people will get it to a standard that you'll be comfortable with, even if it's not perfect.
Great, fantastic. So the takeaway from that is do the things that you need to do now so that you don't have to do them later because of lack of self-care. I wanted to talk about the new generation coming in. So Anita, you spoke about your daughter in the presentation and not really understanding her. They're definitely a different breed of human, a lot more confident, a lot more self-expressed. And Nena, tell me, what do you think the key differences are that you see from this new generation of, I guess, Gen X and Gen Z compared to the women who are in leadership now? And how do you think their approach will, if you think it will change it, but how will it change the way that leadership is delivered by women?
First of all, they're more confident. Mm-hmm. They are more confident. They really don't, how we, you worry about hierarchy, you worry about, respect for elders. They would acknowledge you as an elder, but it won't stop them from saying what they want to say, exactly how they want to say it. So they're more confident. They're more assertive. They know exactly what they want. They're not traditional at all. They're more assertive. And then most importantly, they are very aware of the environment. They are, so alert that for them, digitization, it's actually for them. It was for their generation. So they use it to get information, to do their research, to do their work. Is a tool, is everything. All the things we used to have on the shelf in our generation, it's for them, is in one, it's just a mobile device, So they are able to do so many things, and that includes express themselves on social media, and that ability to express themselves is the power that leadership must not ignore. Because if you've seen most of the things that have happened in the world recently, it's just one tweet or one, just feedback from one person, and they're all connected. Once one person sends it, the whole world gets it. So they are so alert, they're assertive, and they're very confident. And that's what we see differently. And that's going to indeed change the leadership style across the world, across the globe, like Anita also mentioned in her presentation.
Great. Anita, with the Gen Z that you're currently mothering now, how do you think that her generation will impact leadership?
Okay, I think we've said most of it, okay? And but one of the things that I spoke of in my presentation, like I said, was the active participation, okay, in leadership, to basically redefine what leadership should be. I mean, if we're not willing to embrace what leadership should be, they are going to redefine it for us. So what we are going to see, if I tell you, sometimes I have to sit my daughter down and I say, you know what, tell me some of these things that you guys do, because I need to learn. The truth is, I really need to learn to understand. So she begins to school me. She begins to talk about etiquette, okay? The things that...
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be back soon. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So she begins to school me on the competencies that I need to develop within myself to lead her. And what that means is that they have an understanding of how they want leadership to be. And if we don't soon enough begin to adopt what leadership should be for them, they're going to take away that power and redefine it for themselves. So what are we seeing in the Gen Z and what are we seeing in the Gen X leadership profile? We're going to see them, like I said, they've redefined, they know what leadership is going to be like, but they're not going to wait for us to catch up. They're going to take over and they're going to begin to drive it themselves. So we need to start running fast.
Great. Thank you. In terms of inequality, is how much of an issue do you still think exists? Because we have come a long way. It's just like sometimes with race, people are like, oh, there's no, well, places that I live, there's no racism anymore. There clearly is, but we've come a significantly long way. So in the topic of equality in gender leadership or women in leadership in organizations and corporations that you've worked with in, how far have we come and how far do we need to go?
Okay, I would say, yes, I would say that we've come a long way. First of all, we understand the problem. So once you understand the problem, the solution is, it's already there. So we understand the problem is being addressed, is being spoken about. Most organizations have set up women networks to focus on women, what women need to thrive. I am the chairperson for the Blue Women Network at Stanbic Holdings, and I know that we put a lot of focus on what we do for women, not just in recognizing the International Women's Day and the themes, and making sure that in practice we it's part of our day-to-day management of women in the bank. We also have within that network various streams that address different things, giving back to the society, frank talks where we actually take on topical issues that women need to discuss, irrespective of the nature. It doesn't matter. It's not necessarily professional. It's both personal and professional. We take on all the topics. We also have a place for where we bring in the professional topics, and most importantly, we celebrate women leaders. So that ability to recognize and celebrate women leaders is also helping the younger generation to understand that they too can do it. So when you find, a institution where we have Kamala Harris as the first female vice president, you have people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, you have, when you point out all the women that they see globally, and also within the institution itself, you recognize that women should be given positions on the board, women should be given, leadership positions, and they're allowed to mentor people. It empowers the younger ones. They know that it's doable, and then you connect with other networks across different organizations and share best practice. You continue to send the same message across. So it becomes almost like a movement, okay? And like I said, not that we want to replace men. We just want to be women. We just want to be us. And we just want to talk to ourselves to be our best selves. That's it.
Great, thank you. Anita?
One of the things I like to look at is I ask people, what does success mean to you? Because my own definition of success may not be yours. And for one woman, the success could be the CEO of an organization. And for another woman, success could be just raising a family, that her children and everybody is well. And we need to understand that success defined means different things for different people, and we need to build, capacity in those areas of what they define as success to support women. I still go back to the fact to say that, men are rising up to create those opportunities for women, but women need to sit back and take advantage of those opportunities. We see social groups, women, first-time mothers, women supporting women. That's great. We see first-time workers, women supporting women in the corporate space. That is great. We should also begin to see women that are not that vocal, that forward, begin to build in them that capacity to tell them that, in the area that you define as success, you can make a difference. You can play a role there. So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, because different people have different definitions of success. But what it means is that we can inspire them in that position where they define it as success to begin to play an active part, to begin to overcome your fears. You can't be superwoman. I keep on saying it. You can't save the world, but you can change things one at a time, beginning from yourself and from your local sphere. So I think these are some of the things that I would just want to put in, even though much has been said so far.
Okay, thank you for that. So what I'm getting from that is that there is a responsibility for the individual in line with their aspirations to take those actions to drive themselves forward. And on the flip side, it's about creating opportunities to empower and inspire women to feel encouraged to take that step towards their dreams and their desires. Just to talk about the movement that you refer to, Nana. There's so many movements that have happened over the last few years, from Me Too, Black Lives Matter, SARS in Nigeria, to really encourage change. And a lot of that has led to, from really negative things, have led to positive things. Where do you see the impact of, because we're currently in an emotionally charged period of time, and it's been one thing after another. So I guess the question is, what is the impact that you can see that it's had, and what is the opportunity?
Okay, I would say, I mean, everything you've described is part of the VUCA environment, it's part of the uncertainty, it's part of the journey to the change that we all desire. You know, it's part of waking up the world to be more conscious about what people in the minority, in quote, you know, are trying to say. You know, sometimes when you're when you're speaking in a soft voice, people don't hear you until you actually take it up a bit. So it's all the journey to achieving a better world for everyone. So as much as it looks, I mean, the negative, we already know the fact that it creates a lot of violence. It destroys businesses, businesses that people have built over years, including businesses built by women, were particularly impacted in some of those movements and all that. But the flip side of it is that it also gives the society the opportunity to support those that have lost, businesses or whatever it is during that period, but also to, most importantly, to recognize what is being said and what is being asked. And it also challenges leadership to think in the direction, that Anita nicely mentioned in her presentation. I keep going back to that because she did a great job. Leadership just recognizes the fact that there's a new way of leading in our new normal, in the world where we are in today. It's not how they grew up, it's not how they started leading, but the whole world is going in a certain direction. And if you're not listening, and if you're not going to change, these movements will force you to change. And ultimately, some of them will find that they don't have the skill to adapt and respond to these changes, and they will be forced, willingly or unwillingly, to allow the younger generation to take over, to give women more opportunities to lead, and to allow the younger ones, to express themselves in the way that they have been gifted. Because every generation comes with its own gift. And until you give it that opportunity, you continue to have this tension. So you have to have a place or a way of, leadership, of ensuring that leadership gives a place to the younger ones, gives a place to women to explore those innate abilities we've talked about. And then there's also nothing wrong in keeping a bit of the old, just to create that balance. So these are some of the opportunities we should be looking at going forward, just embracing these changes and allowing these things that are manifesting, to express themselves in a way that is healthy and safe for the society, and giving a voice to the voiceless,
Brilliant. It's really interesting that you spoke about women in taking on self-care so that they're not in a position where they break down and then have to take those actions. It seems like that's what's happening in the world. There are clearly issues and challenges that need to be addressed. And when things aren't done about it and changes are made, the world is forced to make them because the pressure is put on from the movement. So thank you. And Anita, what are your views in terms of the impacts that all of these movements have had and the opportunities that they've created?
Yeah, one of the key benefits of the movement is that it's brought a leveling. Okay, so everybody has been put on the same level, that beyond your financial, economic, or social positioning, we are just human beings. And what impacts you impacts me, impacts all of us. And I cannot continue to play the ostrich on situations that are around us. I need to put in my voice. So one of the great benefits of these movements have been the leveling of humanity, to bring us all into the same strata, even with our various differences. Another thing I think that it has also brought about is the heightened focus on humanity. When we are in the world that everything is evolving so fast, and so sometimes we even forget that the next person is a human being. But by this great leveling, okay, and bringing the facts to fore, that what it's impacting me is also impacting you, we are confronted with our own humanity, and that we need to embrace it like that. We've seen care, deep care, the care that wasn't there before. We've seen everyone rising to the need of the other. And even those that, even if you don't want to agree with the positions, you actually just take a silent position back, but there's no direct opposition of it. And I think finally, the last thing I would say that we've seen the movements drive forward is the harnessing the benefits of the wisdom of the crowd. Okay, so we're no longer seeing silence towards what the world is saying. We're seeing action, and we're seeing activity behind it. We saw the recent judgment that happened in the USA, the great jubilation across the world, where we're seeing justice coming to fore. So at that moment, there was no Hispanic, there was no Africa, there was no white. Everybody became a human being, and the world spoke, and the people listened. So these are some of the benefits that we're seeing that are, coming to fore, which we talked about: heightened social and emotional quotients being demanded from leaders. And so in the end, it's been a silver lining. It's been an opportunity in the midst of adversity.
Beautiful. I love that. So through the pain and adversity, these movements have allowed us to connect with our humanity, which has allowed us to be more compassionate and empathetic. I think that you both have really blown me away with your contributions. And we're about to wrap up. The one last question I have is, given everything that we've explored, what are the key takeaways that you want to leave with women in terms of how they can manage change in these complicated times? Anita?
Okay, I would just talk of two of them. I will just quickly say, no one gives you opportunity. Women, go out and grab it. You would never know the opportunities that would be yours, you can possess, if you sit back being docile. Go out and grab it. Make the mistakes and then try again. And the second thing you need to understand is subtlety is strength. Compete as a woman, don't compete as a man. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. Nana?
Okay, quite a few things I like to leave behind. One, it's okay to lead from a place of vulnerability. Okay, it's not a weakness; it's actually a strength. So do not be afraid to lead from a place of vulnerability. Secondly, empower other people. Okay, that's actually how you bring out the best in yourself. That's how you maximize yourself. Empower other people and make sure you're providing opportunities for women that are coming behind you. The third one is to explore multiple channels. Don't just, look at your day job and define yourself by that. The social media and the technology advancement has given us different channels. So, whether it's to get on whether to write a blog or to have your own channel on YouTube, or just express yourself. Find other ways of expressing yourself, because you have so much to give. And lastly, there's purpose in every pain. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have an experience that is not going well for you, see it as a learning experience and try to find the purpose behind that pain, and don't just use it to define yourself and then limit yourself. Because what women do most of the time is, when they have a bad experience, they kind of freeze, and then they don't explore multiple opportunities because they are frozen. So just to remember that whatever experience you're going through is just a stepping stone to your next self. So don't let it limit you. Find the purpose behind that pain, learn from it very quickly, and move on. Thank you.
Very powerful. Thank you. Thank you both for your contribution. I've very much enjoyed this discussion. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks, everyone.